This is a video that I have put off watching time and time again, and it's not very long, so that's not really why. It's just the subject matter. And it's not that it's subject matter that I don't want to talk about. It's just sometimes certain subjects or videos I know are going to involve less than superficial thought process. And sometimes I don't always have the mental energy for it, especially when it's late at night or early the next morning. So I'm going to try to tackle this one and see. I'm a little bit brain tired, but let's see. I mean, this is a subject that I'm fairly familiar with anyway, because my own son is dyslexic. He was labeled he went to a vision therapist for a while, and the doctor called him a classic dyslexic, which, I mean, he meets almost all these markers for dyslexia. And so over the years, I've learned quite a bit about it. And it's still a mystery in a lot of ways because every dyslexic is different. And it manifests itself in different ways in different people. Some people have a very mild dyslexia, and some people have very severe. Anyway, this particular video, I've subscribed to this gentleman's channel just because of the subject matter. I'm not even going to try to say his name because I know I'll screw it up. But I'll put a link, as always, in the description of this video so you can go check out the video and his channel. And, especially if you're just interested in this subject, or if you happen to be dyslexic yourself and just want to see what he has to say about it. This is not one of his first or latest or his latest video. But the reason I picked this is because apparently he did this, I guess, like a series of videos on his channel called Types of Dyslexics. And this is episode 1, and this has to do with identity. I don't know that what he says is really going to spark any sort of intense thought or discussion, but I guess we'll see. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to contribute to what he talks about here, but because this is something that, is kind of, I don't want to say near and dear to my heart, because dyslexia can be very challenging, but it's something I'm very closely connected with. So I'm going to go ahead and just press play.
There are many different ways in which dyslexics tend to see themselves and their dyslexia. Many different types of dyslexic identities. However, researchers have found 3 main types, and I thought that was an awesome
3 main types
academic paper that I read, so I wanted to share it with you. My name is Arije. I'm dyslexic in the field of education studies, and the study that I just referred to was done by Thompson. She looked at a dyslexia online forum. She analyzed the data, and she came up with 3 key dyslexic identity constructs. And you might fall into one of those 3 categories. So let's have a closer look at them.
Would you fall into all 3 of them? Maybe? I mean, makes me wonder. Because just looking at these labels, I can see my son in all of them. To different degrees. So, okay. Just curious to see where he's going to go with
one of those 3 categories. So let's have a closer look at them. The first group of people would say that their dyslexia is a difference, and that the barriers in society cause them to struggle. Typical things that they would say includes, don't judge a fish by its ability to fly. My brain is just functioning different from what is considered normal.
Okay.
Or being dyslexic means consistent struggle against an education and
consistent. He's dyslexic, so he misread that. Constant struggle. Okay. Yeah, this is true. All of this is...
Or being dyslexic means consistent struggle against an education and employment system that is not designed for my skills and abilities. So overall, this group is very focused on breaking down barriers within our society. And if you belong to this group, you're probably into the concept of neurodiversity and the social model of disability. If you belong to the second group, you take it one step further. You not only say that dyslexics are different, you also say that they're better in certain areas. For example, in the visual spatial domain, made a video about that. Also, holistic thinking is mentioned a lot. Then there are these mind strengths from the Dyslexic Advantage. And things that they might say includes, I take pride in the fact that my brain works differently than others. Dyslexia is a gift that is not valued by our society. Or I think outside of the box.
And see, the thing about my son he's kind of torn in a way. He does have this type of mindset, but he doesn't necessarily take pride in it. It's frustrating at the same time for him, because it's a constant. You know, you don't. There's no cure. You just have to learn how to. Arturo, I'm talking about you.
What?
This is a video oh, you brought one of the Reddies. This is a video I'm watching about dyslexia. So.
Yeah. Before she goes, she's got to make her appearance in Cyns.Corner.YT.
Her little tail is probably making an appearance. Oh, she's getting off balance. Aw. You're scaring her. She's like, I'm gonna fall. I'm going down.
I'm going down.
Okay. I want to lick the camera. So something that I was mentioning just now, this is a video about different dyslexic identities.
Okay, there's got to be an identity for mine because...
Well, I think you might enjoy watching this at some point, but I'm on the second identity type, and this one is people who would say or think things like this. I take pride in the fact that my brain works differently than others. Dyslexia is a gift that is not valued by our society. I can think outside the box. And I was saying that you kind of like are torn between that. Like you recognize that you do have certain gifts because of your dyslexia, but it's also a constant frustration for you.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm not socially, what's the word? Fit in. Like I guess you say I don't really fully fit in.
Yeah, you feel like you don't fit in socially. A lot of it is because you can't you have issues or you have trouble expressing your thoughts in a way that you think, you know, you're getting your point across, and sometimes you get words, you know, mixed up, and then sometimes you also have trouble interpreting what someone's really meaning when they say something to you, especially if it's something that could have a double meaning or if it's words that can mean something.
Well, yeah, like sometimes I know Matt was joking about something yesterday, and he's dyslexic too, but he also has Asperger's at the same time.
Oh.
He's got two things going on. But he was making some joke. I didn't really get it until, I mean, I kind of assumed what it could have been, but I don't get what his joke was about.
Yeah.
Like also, but I mean, I think it's better than it was.
Well, you've learned how to deal with it.
I still have moments. And then I get OCD that, okay, that was dumb.
And you got that going on too. But like an example of how you sometimes, so like what happened with work and when they told you not to worry about coming into work, you completely read that as them saying, don't be scared to come into work.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I'm not going to get into the details, but you just had a completely different way of interpreting what was said.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway, okay. That was sun interruption there. But basically, I think the little discussion we had, I'm going to keep part of that in the final video, that there's kind of like he sort of falls into this, but not fully because of the constant sort of frustration he has to deal with because his mind does work differently than most people, because most people are not dyslexic.
Or I think outside of the box. So it's a super positive perspective on dyslexia, and you will even come across people saying that dyslexia is their superpower. The last group of dyslexics has quite a different perspective. They would say it is an impairment and deficiency that prevents them from achieving certain goals. And this is actually in line with a certain amount of academic literature that also talks about the phonological awareness, for example, being impaired within dyslexics, or short-term memory being impaired. And people in this group might say things like,
yeah, I don't remember if that's the first time I've heard that about short-term memory and dyslexia, because my son has issues sometimes with short-term memory, and he's convinced we have Alzheimer's in the family. He's convinced this is a sign of impending Alzheimer's. I don't think that's the case at all. But if I knew about this characteristic of dyslexia, I completely forgot it. So I'm going to have to tell him this, and that will probably ease his mind.
Short-term memory being impaired. And people in this group might say things like, dyslexia is not a gift. It is something that makes me feel ashamed and causes anxiety and stress. People say to me, it is a disability, and I think it is really not a nice thing to have. Or unfortunately, it means being unable to pursue a career path that I desire. This group would also argue that it is necessary to see dyslexics as disabled, since only this ensures that they're being accommodated. So here you have it.
Kind of ties in with the first
of dyslexic identities. Online, one claiming they are learning
Turo.
disabled, one saying that they're...
Did you hear what I said? So
Ties into something. Yeah, I just heard you say tie into something. Okay.
short-term memory issues,
Really?
yes, can be a characteristic of dyslexia. So
So
you have
that's
a really good memory for things from like 10 years ago.
But then I all of a sudden.
But then you'll forget things in your
something a few
short-term
seconds-
memory, and it doesn't mean you're going to have Alzheimer's.
Okay, well
Does that ease your mind?
it does, but I still don't want to consume so much carbs.
Okay, Arturo, we're not getting into that in this video.
But yeah, that actually, yeah. That takes
Yeah,
something
that-
off my
if
shoulder.
I
'Cause
knew-
was thinking, why am I forgetting that quick?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking, did I do damage to my brain, or did I do something, to cause this issue?
Yeah.
And obviously I thought the carbs because
Of-
you said
yes.
carbs can cause
Alzheimer's. It's not like people that have Alzheimer's, when they put them on a keto diet, it can help them.
Yeah, I mean, see, like that's the thing.
But we learned, I think this is more related to that than what
Yeah.
what the big concern you have. So that's interesting, because I don't remember ever knowing that.
Neither did I.
Okay.
Well, but at least now I get. Once I forget something.
Oh, it's my
just-
dyslexia.
it's
Just my dyslexia.
It's doing that electricity. Doing something making me forget so quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because see, when I try to remember, what did I just do a few seconds ago?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I can't process it right.
Yeah, that's your short-term memory. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
You might like to check out his videos. I'll send you a link to his channel. When I'm done recording this, I'm almost done. I've got a few more, like less than a minute to go. A few more
All right,
seconds
well,
to go.
that makes me feel at ease.
Eases your mind.
Because I've been worrying lately about, I'm getting older and
Oh, you're so old.
I am.
Go back.
Online, one claiming they're learning disabled, one saying that they're socially disabled, and the last one claiming that they're differently enabled. Do you see yourself fitting into one of these categories? Are you a mix? Let me know in the comments below.
Mix.
And see you in the next video.
Okay, so I think, and Arturo's not here right now to contribute to the discussion. He left, but I think he is a mixture of all three. And I want to say that probably a lot of dyslexics are. I can see all three elements in him myself. I don't know what he would say, if he were the one talking to you guys, but I see all three in him. And it is this constant, thing. It's like, it can be frustrating. As someone who's not dyslexic, it can be frustrating to witness, because my brain works differently than his brain. And so I never really had major issues in school. I mean, there was one subject matter I had trouble understanding initially, and that was algebra. I failed algebra in my first year, and then I retook it. and with the same teacher. And I started off really shaky, but then somehow my brain just finally went boop and I understood it and it was fine. I was always someone who could learn very easily through text-based study. And my son is not. So, and most schools are not geared towards tailoring their teaching in such a way that it can accommodate people who learn differently, because it's not even just dyslexia. People who aren't even dyslexic, they learn in different ways. Some people learn more through actually physically doing. Some people learn more through visual learning. Some people learn more through auditory learning. Some people through the reading. Did I say that already? Some people also learn more there's like these different, I'm drawing blanks on all the different types of learning styles. There's like 6 or 7 or something. I read a fascinating book on that years and years ago when I was still homeschooling. And it was very interesting. Now, a lot of dyslexics fall into those different categories too. But it is true that our school systems in general are not accommodating for the most part. They're just not geared that way, because it's so like the most efficient way to teach people is through the traditional text-based, here, read this, answer these questions, listen to the teacher talk, like text-based and auditory. Listen to the teacher talk, let's, read these books or whatever, and, you're going to learn the material. It's easiest, it's less time consuming to just, it's less time consuming to just plop this paperwork in front of the kids. But the problem is not everybody learns that way. And so because schools don't really easily accommodate, I mean, they're better at it now than they were, but it's very difficult for people that have different learning styles, dyslexics included. Let's just say, I'm talking specifically about dyslexia, but like I said, there's different learning styles that non-dyslexics have. And it's just very difficult for them because the material is not being given to them in a way that they can process and actually learn. But school in general isn't. I have very strong emotions about the public education system, and I feel like that is the last place to go for true learning. But removing that sort of stance from it, it's just, well, what I was getting ready to say is school is typically focused on just cramming your head with this information so you can pass a test, not necessarily actually learn something for good. And because dyslexics learn in a different way, it's most often a struggle for them. And not just educationally, but in social ways too, because sometimes, like I said, they have trouble communicating their thoughts effectively. Maybe they'll say something that comes out wrong, and people will think, what is going on with that person? Because they'll just get their words just not right, or they'll use a completely wrong word for something. And sometimes maybe they'll even say something that could be deemed as highly offensive because they've used the wrong word. And they really weren't being offensive. They weren't intending any sort of offense, but because they didn't pull the correct word, from their brain dictionary, it can just, so sometimes people, if they don't know the person is dyslexic, and they can be like, what, so he has that going on, he's much better than he was, but it's still something that's with him. It's always going to be with him. So he's got that thing that's, what was it called? Societally disabled or something like that. He feels that way too, but he also feels that he is differently enabled. He recognizes that the way his brain works, it's outside the box. It's different from the way other people think. And so that enables him to sort of think about things in a way that other people might not. So in that sense, he kind of, and he's very creative. He's always coming up with stories and these ideas. And so in that sense, he sees that that's an advantage. But then also he does view himself as learning disabled. So he's kind of like a mixture of all three. And it's It's interesting. The way the brain works is really interesting, but it can also be frustrating when you've got so many different ways that the brain works for people. And this is an interesting channel. I'm looking forward to checking out more of his videos, and I might do more reactions on his stuff. And I know I've kind of like rambled on, but my brain is full of all these thoughts that I try to put into words in a succinct manner, and I do not always succeed. I'm not dyslexic, but sometimes, you know, I don't know. When I do these videos, I'm not writing like an essay or a term paper. I'm just talking. Like I said, this is just a discussion chat. I had someone get on my case because I didn't have well thought out, what was the wording he used? Some well thought out discussion, or well thought out, like I didn't put in any effort into my response to a particular video, and this was regarding a Jordan Peterson video. And that's because, well, I don't have time, like I've said before. If that was going to be the focus of my channel, if this was all I did, I would put more effort. I mean, it's not that I don't put effort in, it's just I don't put in the time necessary to make a nice polished video, because I'm just talking to you guys, and I feel like I have rambled once again. This is just the way my channel is, but this is the way we talk, you know. It's the way people talk when they're together. They just kind of bouncing these thoughts around and whatever. Anyway, well, that was a tangent. That had nothing to do with this, but anyway, yeah, I'm going to check out more of his stuff. And like I said, I'll put a link to this video in the description. And if you guys are interested, go check out his channel. This is the very first time I've watched his videos, or one of his videos, because I've been subbed to his channel, but I never watched a video until now. So this is my first exposure to him, and it's pretty interesting. So, okay, I'm going to shut up now, you guys. It's getting pretty late, and I've got some editing to do, so later.